Dantooine, Jedi Enclave, HQ, Hub, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Okay. This is where Dantooine would start, essentially. So, just kind of showing this for reference. This is what it should look like. This is my PC version, created in Unity. We've been recently porting it to Unreal Engine 5.1.1 DBG, my new tool, which is essentially Dreams for Unreal Engine. But this is what we've gotten so far. And this is kind of what we're going for overall. Now I've pretty much got the main part of the base done, which in this case is just this little HQ building and how it works and how it serves the game. In this case, this little HQ building will actually serve the game in one certain purpose, and that is this is essentially going to at one point become the BFW home screen. Essentially, this is where you'd start the game. At the moment, we start at the Instant Assault menu. We already start here. This is where we would start at in BFW. However, I've already got this and all that figured out. I just need to make the rest of Dantooine to actually make it to where it'd be logical to use it. So, yeah. Anyway, so I really need to kind of finish up Dantooine. I'm probably going to remake it from scratch since I already know exactly what I want to do. I've already made one version in Battlefront Worlds, which pretty much looks similar to this in most ways. Some things are slightly different, but other than that, it's pretty much the exact same design. But yeah, so this is going to be the first part of the video, is just kind of understanding what game we're actually modeling this off of. We are modeling this off of Battlefront 3, of course, the canceled one, as we had spoken of, but also off of Battlefront 2 from 2005. So certain maps aren't going to be the exact same. The reason why is because certain maps that we made on this Battlefront 3 and TGCW, they simply just didn't receive a lot of support, and they didn't receive a lot of good reviews. So we wanted to just go ahead and keep the ones that did from the older games that people enjoyed and loved and that they already know. As far as the newer maps in which weren't added or in which people did want to see new ones of, we've got Dantooine, Bespin, Hoth, Mustafar, Kashyyyk, Alderaan, Coruscant, Yavin 4, Ordal Mantell, Renvar. This is actually just a test, so we don't have to worry about that. And then we have Scarif. There's going to be many planned more, as you already know, in our BFW on the PS5 and PS4. We already have Camino, and so on and so forth. So we're already kind of planning other planets. It's not that. It's just the fact that we don't exactly know how we're going to do it exactly yet, but we do want to at least finish the ones that we've already gotten and that we've shown you so far. So instead of going on to like Camino and Megiddo and all that and like finishing up those, we really just want to finish up what we've got. So first off is first and foremost, and that is Dantooine. That's going to be the one that really needs full on finishing on BFW. Once that's finished, we will work more on Tatooine. Tatooine, I'm going to be honest, it's got like so many variations that I've already kind of made some reference. It's going to go into this video later, so just keep watching and you guys will see what we're going to be modeling Tatooine to look like. But as far as Swatcher 1982's assets that he's provided and his work, I can say that we can definitely make a beautiful, beautiful modular set piece out of that, and we won't have to worry at all. So anybody who's willing to edit with us and help with the contribution of the project, we will be allowing pretty much anyone to help as long as they, keep it on the DL. So that's about it. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment of this video, and that is actually looking at Dantooine. So let's go ahead and get into there. And we're just going to go ahead and pull off the bots. We don't want any of those for this because this is just, we're just kind of checking out the overall map. So this is actually what we're looking at. This is going to be Dantooine. This is the Enclave. This is our starting area here. Right here. So this is going to be like our Enclave starting area, all that. Whereas this up here, okay, is going to be kind of like the enemy's landing area and their secondary starting area. Here is going to be the rebels, or in this case, the enemy's direct starting area. So this is like where they initially would spawn. But after you started killing them over here, they're going to start spawning over here in waves, and they're also going to try to capture this point. So once they've captured that point, of course, that'll become another initial spawn point. So it's really essential as that. So what we're going to be doing in this case is really just trying to replicate this map. So I've already kind of started with this overall in the BFW version, but I haven't went nearly as far as to actually like do everything and make it look good. So for example, let's go to our first person view here. Be a little better. But yeah, you can already kind of see where Battlefront Worlds gets its direct look from. It's essentially just the PS5's version of this game. This is the original version. So it is modeled again off of Battlefront 3. We did our best to kind of pull it into that universe, but it's a lot more massive. So, and like I said, everything was pretty much redone. None of these maps were actually taken from other games. These were all done from scratch. But like I said, some of them just did not receive a lot of support and not a lot of good reviews. This was one of them that did, and that people happen to love. So, yeah, I want to keep in Dantooine, and this is kind of just what it looks like overall. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's really a beautiful map. We don't have to worry about all this grass and shit. I can make that in literally 10 seconds on Dreams, and I can place it everywhere. I really just want to worry about setting the trees and the mountainous regions and all that in the right places. But mostly, and most and foremost, and that is getting all these set pieces in. So we need to build a bridge similar to this one. So that we can just set it when we're done. We need to get the terrain as flat as possible. I really don't like this like super hilly terrain, but we will get it as flat as possible, and then we'll work on hills. But yeah, I want to start with everything flat as far as I'm concerned. For example, the Tatooine ground, I loved it. I fucking did. But the fact is that it was using the Geonosis ground, which really will not work for this, and I really kind of hadn't been finishing Tatooine due to that fact. Is due to the fact that we needed to just rebuild it from scratch using set pieces. I already built the Tatooine set piece, by the way. If you hadn't seen it, it's in my Star Wars Mega Packs, so you might check that out, and I'll go ahead and link that below in the description just in case. So anyway, yeah, it's gonna be really, really cool. After this bridge over here, by the way, and there's gonna be a few of these, of course, but after this one over here is past, and you can see like you have this little citadel over here, almost like little citadel kind of. But yeah, by the way, I'm trying to use only one hand, so I'm very sorry that my videoing fucking sucks, because I'm limited as shit right now to doing this. So anyway, after this bridge, we're gonna see the side here, and these are going to be our spawn points, but you can also go up to them and press E, and you can actually switch characters. So if you press E, it'll essentially go to the switch character screen, so it's pretty cool, and it'll spawn you back in that exact place using a variable as a different character. And we can of course do this in Dreams with a variable and a variable modifier, but in Dreams it acts a little weird because it'll spawn you, but when it re-emits your character, the other character that you selected, it always makes them smaller for some reason than they actually were when first emitted. I know that sounds stupid, but yeah, it does that. So I'm guessing it's actually going off the size of when it was first created and not what the size that you've edited it to. I guess that's the best way to say it. It sounds really confusing. Anyway, sounded better in my head. But after you get over this, you're gonna have the ETA to Actus here, and as you can see, you'll be able to fly it full on. So this is third person, this is first person cockpit view. I actually just started working on a cockpit view for the X-Wing, by the way. Sorry, not the X-Wing, the ARC 170, I mean. So yeah, but this is actually one of the main ships going to be premiering this game, so we definitely need to be adding an ETA to Actus. So I'll put some other links in the description, and I'll also put some reference images in this video after this. But simply enough, you press space and you're able to take off from any position. And what's really cool and what sets this apart from the other Battlefront games, including even the canceled Battlefront 3, is that you can actually go all the way over here and land wherever you want. Say if I wanted to land, let's just say I wanted to land on that mountain, right? So let's just go really, really fast. By the way, if you would push L stick in frontward, it's similar to sprint. I want to create a keyframe in which closes the wings for almost all of the open wing vehicles, and I've been kind of working on that as an animation, but I can seem to only get it on one side at a time. So anyway, you'll press space and then you can land, and what it does is it just checks for a point of landing contact under it, and pretty much if it's within 50 foot of it, it'll land. In this case, I was only about 50, some odd feet up, so it checked for a solid collision source. In this case, all it's checking for is ground, and it knows that ground is a landable area as long as it's not lava or something like that. But yeah, even up on one of these points, it'll still try to land, and that's what I like about it. It's very realistic. I didn't make it to where, oh, it can only land on landing zones. No, fuck that shit. It can land anywhere. Okay, if it's ground, it can land. If it is sand, it can land. Vice versa. If it's lava, it can't, of course. If it's water, yeah, it's gonna land, but it's gonna have limited time before it sinks. So you just gotta think of those things. It will be realistic. That's what I'm going for. This is just a little short showcase of Battlefront 3. I did forget to show you guys though the most important part, and that is of this whole entire video. How does the space to ground work? How does the whole game have to be set up? Well, in Battlefront 3, our remake, you can see that we start from the ground and we're always going up, which eventually this will be how Battlefront Worlds works. However, for now, what we want to focus on is starting from warp. Warping in action, also known as real instant action. Okay? They don't have to do all the parameters and settings and all that stuff. But what's actually going on is when I just went up here, you saw that little red thing on my ship. That is actually a loading screen. That's the same thing as an exit door on Dreams. Okay, and I say this because that exit door, okay, pretty much closed off this level. You'll see that down here nothing's happening now at all. Okay, but when I go back in, see, and it loads in. And so you'll notice it's loading out because the whole level is actually closing. These are two separate levels, which are stacked up on top of each other, literally, in a 3D space. So that's what's really cool. That's what really sets it apart from your average system. Now, the way that this is done is by level streaming. What's cool is that Dreams already has level streaming. It's built right in. It's literally wiring two scenes together. That's level streaming for you. And it's really cool. Now, I don't know if theirs uses the same process as this, of course, because theirs uses C++ programming and mine uses C#. But the point is it works the same, and that's all that matters. Now, what happens is, as all the enemies down there are loaded out, they're just spawned back up here. Okay, but in Dreams it's a little different. You're actually going to have two fully separate levels, in which the enemies are already up here and the enemies are already on your other level. Now, you won't be able to bilinearly stack them like this, so it's going to be a little different. In Dreams, they're just going to be completely separate. So you'll look down, you'll think you're looking at it, but you're really not looking at anything. What's going to happen is you're going down, and right about here, you'll hit a trigger zone in Dreams. And when you hit that trigger zone, you will then spawn into a level in which is already preloaded with all of the stuff you're about to see. Give me just a second. You'd pretty much spawn in right here after you hit that trigger zone. You'd spawn in here in a new level entirely, in which would be called Sky 2. Okay, Sky 2 is you coming back from space. Alright, so to give the impression that we just pretty much did exactly what we just did. It would give the impression of true, full-on, seamless transitions to level streaming. Something that Dreams doesn't currently really have. So, we're kind of using their level transition string system to string these scenes together to kind of give the same impression of what we're doing here. And that's really the key to making it all work. If it doesn't work that way, then it will not be Battlefront 3. It will not be the successor that we're looking for. It does not have to be this big. It can be relatively large, of course, as you can probably already tell from other levels that I've created. It will definitely be big. There's no doubt about that. Coruscant's a great example. It's fucking huge. But as far as the travelability, it'll be similar to this, except when you leave the planet, like I said, it'll be a completely separate level. So you'll have a skybox up there, and you can tell kind of what's going on. If you look into this a little more, you can tell what's really going on with my game. If you just you watch back through this video. So like I said, essentially, you're just doing it like that. That's really how it's working.
Okay guys, so pretty much you can tell that the load into level transition, there at the top left, that's where you would start, okay? That's going to be our warp transition that you can see up also at the top left. So, down below, okay, right to the right, you'll see Tatooine space. That's what comes next, alright? As you get into Tatooine space, then, of course, so when you go into the level transition, of course, you'll press triangle, and that'll then load in a new level. That'll be Tatooine space. So essentially, it causes an exit and then an entry to happen. That entry, you'll be entering Tatooine space. This will be the space only, okay? You'll have the planet, but you will not be directly above it, okay? It'll look as if you literally warped in to go toward Tatooine from another star system entirely, coming from a different direction, essentially. When you get there, you'll pretty much be able to go down into the Sky 2, Tatooine Sky 2. That'll be you entering the atmosphere, okay, from space. So you'll be literally pointing down toward the planet, and you'll be like looking at a platform to land on, okay? That'll be the Tatooine ground layer, of course. When you land on that ground layer, you should then spawn into Tatooine ground layer. So when you spawn into that, you should be next to your ship as a player, as if you had just spawned on the ground from landing, of course, and gotten out. So you won't have like a get out animation, all that. We can work on that later, okay? That's all able to be implemented later on. So we're just kind of working on the basics, but that's pretty much how it works. And then, of course, if you wanted to go to Sky, okay, starting from there, then you would just go to the ship. When you touch the ship, you're actually just going into a new level called Tat Sky 1. It's within this level that your player doesn't even exist at all. Instead, the ship only exists as the player. If you fly to the trigger zone above from here, then you should spawn into space above the planet directly over Tatooine.